if I villainize someone so badly, you might actually forget about the law and say, you know what? I don't care what the charges are. This guy needs to be in jail. And that could be a large part of the prosecution's play on this. Yes, part of it goes to how he controlled her. Yes, part of it goes to the trafficking portion of it. But at the same time, villainizing him to the point that it doesn't matter what anyone says about this case, someone who would do this needs to go away is also, I think, part of the play.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just ain't real. Real life street stars. You know what time it is. Real life street stars. Oh. Man, we back once again. Like we never left, man. We're back in the building with, once again, Larry Taylor III, a.k.a. the real life lawyer, a.k.a. Mr. Lanez. But we ain't going there. But welcome back once again. Thank you for, first and foremost, coming through Diddy trial week 1. A lot of people tuned into that interview and your take on it. And as we get started, I want you to reintroduce yourself, and then we'll take it from there.
My name is Larry Taylor, and I'm the managing partner for the Johnny Cochran Law Firm for Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico.
With that being said, let's first and foremost address the last interview with week 1.
All right.
Did you get a chance to either take a look at some of the comments that were said, kind of reiterate some of your thoughts? Is there anything that you might have left out of that one that you wanted to kind of reiterate? Or
you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to apologize, especially to all the women and people and followers who are big fans of Cassie. I know last week, and I didn't realize I was saying Cassidy again. And so,
yeah, Cassie versus Cassidy.
And so I don't know why that came out like that, but Ms. Ventura does deserve better than that. And so charge it to my head and not my heart, and not necessarily coming at her or discrediting her in any fashion. The second comment I want to address is the what do you call those people who just are there to bomb and
trolls?
Trolls. Want to address the troll who
Yes.
said that they wouldn't hire me to do a traffic ticket.
Oh wow, that's pretty funny.
Right. And so the thing is, they are absolutely correct. I don't do traffic tickets. And so they couldn't hire me to do that. If they want to know anything about me, I'm the only lawyer of color who was on the trial team for the state of Texas in the opioid litigation, that I think now we're a little over $3 billion in settlement for the state of Texas. If you want to know anything about me, I'm the same attorney who went into a Mexican federal prison to get a black male truck driver released when no one else could do it. If you want to know anything about me, I'm the same man who represented a woman who was sexually assaulted as an Uber driver. If you want to know anything about me, look at any major legal publication and see what the write-up has been about me. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that to say that in these interviews and when I'm on this program, I'm here because I believe in what these young brothers are doing. I've done Dateline, I've done CBS, I've done Fox, I've done national syndicated news stations, but I choose not to do that because I choose to be here, because I think that the most talented of us should give back and come back home. And so that's why I'm here. But I'm sorry that you would not hire me to do a traffic ticket, because I don't do those. And if I did, you would probably win. But I'm just saying, you do you.
And as you speak on, not only just your accolades and, the cases that you're pending against, again, your constituents, those are the likes of Ben Crump, Jasmine Crockett, the things you've done for the city of Dallas, and like you said, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Google you. That's what I would tell someone to do. Instead of just watching this interview, Google the Johnny Cochran Law Firm, Google Larry Taylor, and you'll see the history there. With that being said, we have to speak about things that's taken place within this trial for week 2. Before we even speak about what took place, from just an attorney standpoint, watching week 1 go, pulling Cassie out, the big guns. Week 2, we had the likes of Kid Cudi, Cassie's mother, Dawn Richard, Dawn from Danity Kane, a couple of the hotel workers, a couple of male. So they're bringing out their guns now. Did you expect week 2 to go into that form of the prosecution bringing out the likes of what they brought out?
I did. And so I think I spoke about it last week when I said that if I was prosecuting this case, you would bring out a psychologist. And so they brought out Dr. Hughes, the same one from the Johnny Depp trial. And so she talked about what I said before is you have to show and establish why the treatment of Cassie and her behavior fits into the mold of sex trafficking. And so you have to prove that coercion, the fraud, and force. And so you need those things. And so she was brought in to do that. And so this time I'm going to do a little bit something different. I'm going to talk about it from both what the prosecution did and what the defense did well. So to try to give that balance. And so doing that, Dr. Hughes talked about some important things as far as how women who are beaten and treated as Cassidy was, why they stay with their abuser and why they seem to cater to their abuser. And so a lot of your viewers spoke on that in their comments. And so this is the person that proved and talked about what they were saying from a scientific standpoint. However, there are some flaws in that. And so her testimony doesn't really go to this trial as far as the individuals. It goes as to a behavior. And so the jury has to take this information and decide if it applies or if they see that it applies. And so the defense came back and really beat up on the doctor in the sense that she didn't interview Cassie or Miss Ventura. She did not talk to Diddy. She didn't have any contact with any of the individuals involved in this case. So her analysis doesn't really go to the actual trial and go to the actual situation. And so, but it was good to educate the jury on that. And that's something that you needed to do.
Yeah, no, I'm going to jump around week 2, but I definitely want to make sure we speak on what we need to speak on. They brought out Cassie's mother. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, before we go into what she spoke on, the defense chose not to speak to the mother. Can you explain that strategy as far as allowing the mother to testify to the depravities of things that happened and what she saw as a mother to her daughter, mm-hmm. and the defense not to attack what she said?
Mothers are sacred. I mean, they are the sacred altar for any race, any group of individuals, any belief system. Mothers are sacred. And so the testimony as to her daughter being victimized, pictures of her daughter, there's not anything that really you can ask her about that situation that would help you in a defense, because she basically stated that she didn't know anything other than what she saw or what she might have been told. She didn't really say that she saw anything that happened to her daughter firsthand. And so the pictures that she took, the things that she does know and did participate in firsthand are still pretty secondary in nature. And so to ask her a question in that regard, what if you ask her a question and she just breaks down crying?
Doesn't look good.
Right? Or what if you ask her a question and she is so angry that she yells at you? How do you control that situation? And it's one of the biggest mistakes that lawyers make when you don't know the temperament of a witness, and it's a key witness who has basically an emotional connection. I've done cases in which we did depositions, and I love the fact that they asked my mother's silly questions, because as soon as they answered it in a motherly way and break out crying, game over.
Yeah, I think even in with Yella Beezy's trial, his bond hearing, his grandmother coming in to speak
killed it.
Yeah, it's like, there we go. That's the thank you. Because that's what you need is, like you said, it's a universal language when it comes to a mother or any one of a maternal figure to speak on someone's behalf. Now, Cassie's mother did mention that she had to take out $20,000 to pay Diddy in order to, I guess, I forgot, again, please, y'all, I'm sorry, because I don't remember exactly.
It was extortion.
She felt it was extortion. She said she needed to get her own money, their own $20,000. I don't know if they took it from the house or whatever, but they obtained $20,000 to give Diddy to hopefully, I guess,
keep him from posting the photographs.
Correct.
And so he had videos or photographs of Miss Ventura that he wanted or he threatened to show because of her relationship with Kid Cudi, and that $20,000 was hush money. The problem that you're going to really have with that testimony, and you can knock it out the park in closing, is Mr. Combs, $20,000 that's not even his bar tab. His bar tab is more than that.
Right.
And so I'm asking the jury, do you really believe that a man with this much money and who has bottles of wine in his cellar that costs more than $20,000 is asking this family for $20,000 not to show videos and pictures and not leak that information? He would get 100 times more than that to sell it to one of the websites in order for them to have it, right? And so, no, it's going to be attacked later on, but it wasn't necessary to attack her in that regard.
And speaking of, I don't know if you know this, but there was an old interview that leaked with 50 Cent speaking on having a video of Cassie a long time ago, back when he had thisis50.com, and they were going to post it on that channel. And Diddy had, this is all from 50's statement on it, but Diddy had called and asked him, like, how'd you get that? And, questioning how'd you get that? And, 50's like, I got ways. Do you feel with sex tapes in this trial that, because I think even they said, even the freak-offs, they're going to let the jury see and probably not let the audience members watch. Is it even necessary to pull Cassie as she's pregnant on the stand to show, like, here's some videos that we found on his hard drive? Does it do anything for the case to show actual freak-off tapes?
So going to pros and cons. The pro is, if I villainize someone so badly, you might actually forget about the law and say, you know what? I don't care what the charges are. This guy needs to be in jail. And that could be a large part of the prosecution's play on this. Yes, part of it goes to how he controlled her. Yes, part of it goes to the sex trafficking portion of it. But at the same time, villainizing him to the point that it doesn't matter what anyone says about this case, someone who would do this needs to go away, is also, I think, part of the play. On the flip side of that, as a defense, I am to the point where I'm saying to myself, look, there are many of us who have just simple sexual lifestyles. We got a spouse, we got a significant other, we're intimate, it's just the two of us, there's no videos. And the shock of letting people know that there are multiple people in the room, there's basically orgies, it goes toward someone's sexual behavior. It doesn't make them a bad person. They just have sex in a different way than you. And that the government is trying to villainize both him and Ms. Ventura for how they believe or how they enjoyed their sex life. That's why there are swinger clubs. I mean, they're perfectly legal. They're not shutting them down.
Right.
They're not raiding them. And so they're out there. And so as a defense attorney, I'm showcasing the fact that these individuals just lived an alternative lifestyle.
So the judge, I believe on Thursday, pulled the prosecution on a sidebar to kind of ask them, like, they're not seeing anything of coercion. They're not laying down their case to show coercion and getting to this thing. So for the judge to pull, again, I always thought a judge is just to ride it out. But for a judge to want to have more control over this thing, to say, hey, it's been 2 weeks and I'm not seeing the case that you guys are presenting, the coercion part of this. Is that normal for a judge to ask, like, you know, because that may be part of their strategy to lead up to that. Is it right for a judge to kind of say, hurry up and get to it? I need to see it within the first couple of days versus, you know, waiting to let the prosecution present their whole case.
And it could be a situation, yes, it is. A judge can come in and say, hey, look, where are we going with this? Because if you guys have 4 weeks to put on your case and they have 4 weeks to put on your case and you're halfway through and we haven't really gotten to anything other than Miss Ventura and her relationship, and I'm really not seeing this. A directed verdict could very well come as soon as you close your case because you haven't really proven all of the elements of your case, everything that you said you were going to do. And so, you know, I watch, like many of us, we watch the trial and we watch several things that are going on with the trial. There are some who believe that the fact that he beat her, the fact that he paid for her apartment, paid for cars, provided gifts. And so I thought about that. And so on the prosecution side, that's what I'm showing to show that. I'm showing that to show that that's the element that we needed to show sex trafficking, that I was taking this woman across the country and bringing people in to have sex with her. And so even though I wasn't physically having sex with her myself, it was for sexual gratification, and that I was basically putting money out there and forcing her and threatening her to make sure that she did this. Now, on the defense side, and I'm going to throw this out there to the viewers, because I heard the comments about, well, he was paying for her apartment and that's why she did this. As a man, if a woman was fixing my breakfast every morning, fixing my lunch, washing my clothes, and the only time I ate is when she cooked my food, and she left me or cheated on me, do I have a right to go back and say, hey, look, you got to continue to cook for me and you got to continue to take care of me and do these things for me because you made sure I ate? And so I thought about that in this context, in the sense that just because if you're with me, you enjoy the comforts that I seek myself and provide for myself, and I provide for you because you're with me. Are you entitled to those things if you're not with me? And if you are afraid to leave me because you no longer will receive those comforts, is that really my fault? The same way that there are some people who stay in relationships with individuals who take care of them, not necessarily monetarily, but wash their clothes. There's guys who probably won't leave a female because he's so used to her taking care of him that he won't do that. Now, let me set the record straight. I do all the cooking and no one has washed my clothes but my mom, and she stopped doing that when I was 10. So I don't have anyone wash my clothes, and I do all the cooking in my house.
There you go. There you go.
You take it to the dry cleaner?
Yeah.
No, I wash my clothes and I take it to the dry cleaner. I mean, I can't wash this.
Right.
So,
that's what I was going to say. Like,
wait,
can't wash that.
What you be cooking? What's your go-to?
Dude, I can pretty much cook anything.
Alfredo?
I mean, I make homemade marinara.
Oh, okay, yeah, you got
it. I make
you whipping it up.
I make Chinese food.
What about the lamb chop?
You know what? I'm not a big lamb eater. So no, I mean, right. And I don't, watch this, I don't like sweets. So I don't bake.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, don't come here and say you baking cakes, bro. Don't
no, I don't bake. But my son, dude can bake without a recipe. And he cold with it.
They teaching kids everything in school now. So anyway, let me ask you, because this is where Diddy, this is when you hear the Cassie case, I think the next strongest witness they pulled forward was Kid Cudi. Now, this Kid Cudi thing, well, first let me address this. Kanye West just tweeted. He's like, dang, Kid Cudi, I hate they got you to testify against Diddy. Like, you're playing white and we shouldn't testify against each other into the white man system. And again, I might want to make it about race, but this is Kanye. This is Kanye West thinking that, like, why are you playing into the system of their hands when you don't testify against your brother, bro? I mean, but a car did get blown up. So, first of all, what is your take on Kid Cudi testifying?
We don't know why he was there. I mean, if he received a subpoena, he has to show up. Plain and simple.
But can you plead the fifth? Can you plead the fifth?
Or what happens if you don't show up?
You will have law enforcement find you wherever you are, and they will bring you and put you in a detention center until it's time for you to testify.
Right.
But wait. So what if I just refuse to speak? Like I'm not saying shit, man.
You got to go on the stand.
No. Watch this. I'll tell you. Okay. Just watch the YSL trial.
Yeah, you got to go on that stand.
When Woody did that, and they would send him back.
No, what if I'm saying, like, I refuse to
No, that's what I'm saying. If you refuse to speak and answer the questions after you've been instructed by a judge to answer the question, you will be sent back to the jail. Hold on. For those who see my eyes moving, because you said I have shifty eyes, they are spread out, and so I'm following the person who's asking me the question. So
they should know that by now.
So how long can you be held? Indefinitely?
Man, that's a very good question.
Because can they hide you for?
The trial's over, I guess.
That's a very good question. I will have to get back with you on that.
Okay,
because there is. I am pretty sure that they can hold you for basically it's up to the judge. But I'm also not sure if there is a trigger in the sense that is there a mini trial that needs to happen or a hearing that needs to happen to discuss that whole detention process. So that's a very
because I'm just thinking like it seems like holding people in contempt. We've seen judges like if a person gets smart with them, oh, that's 2 months, oh, that's 3 months, oh, that's 6 months. Can they just really hand you that time if you've done nothing wrong and you just I don't want to cooperate. I don't like law enforcement. I don't like the judicial system. I don't want to cooperate. So now that there's a prejudice against me because I don't want to cooperate, I can be held in jail for an indefinite amount of time.
I'm not going to say indefinite, but there has to be, I think it has to be a trigger to let you out.
Right.
And so that's a very good question. Because usually when someone's held in contempt, there is kind of a process in which they can either bond out until hearing is had. And usually once you get to that point, it's lifted and it goes away. And it's just a form of basically making you answer the question.
Right. And just a side conversation on that, there's a video going viral where a dude, I guess he committed murder or multiple murders, and the judge hit him with a $1 million bond. Mm-hmm. He like, that ain't enough. I need $1 billion. That's disrespectful. Give me $1 billion. And the judge, I'll show it to you. The judge ended up pushing it to $100 million. He's like, no, that didn't. I told you $1 billion. What? So I'm like, and mind you, and I think she might have pushed it to $10 million, not even $100 million, but $10 million versus $1 million, because he was just so arrogant about the murders. Like, I did that. Is that just jumping from $1 million to $10 million based on him just saying, give me $1 billion? That ain't enough. Like, what is that as far as within her legal right to, all right, let me show you.
She's going to have the ACLU come after her. Because the thing is, and I work with an organization that deals with bail reform. I'm actually an officer. And bail reform is basically you can't hold people in jail with unfair bonds or high bonds based on what the alleged crime they've committed. And so,
but if he said that he had the money,
regardless of what he said, regardless of what he said, to put a bond so high that you know someone cannot pay it is going to be unconstitutional. So she will probably hear about that from one of those organizations, if not from my organization.
right. Like, I'm gonna show you the video. I'm gonna have you look into it.
In that regard, because if you look at Yellow Beezy in the trial that we talked about, the bond and that, Grandma said, look, he is no longer that artist he was when he was hot. And he's no longer doing the same things. He no longer owns the same things. He no longer has the same money coming in. Therefore, the judge in that case reduced the bond. And so to raise the bond just because you got someone acting a fool, I mean, if anything, she just should have just looked at him, because now his attorney potentially has a reason to recuse that judge from his client's case.
Correct.
Because that could be seen as an act of aggression or prejudice.
Oh yeah, without question. So as Rook was saying, Kid Cudi going on stand, he has the ability to say, I don't remember, I don't recall. I'm assuming he could plead the fifth, I'm assuming there's ways for him not to actually speak to the questions that are being asked to him, I'm assuming. Shout
out to Woody. He's a professor in that. And so he probably should teach a master class on I don't recall. So shout out to little bro on that. But the whole situation with Kid Cudi getting on the stand and testifying in this case, I don't know if it was as damaging as people say. What was damaging was the star power. What was damaging was his confidence and his bravado. You know, you walked in, everyone is pretty much sharply dressed. He comes in, jeans, leather jacket, cigarette, looking like a black.
Kid Cudi, though.
But it's a black James Dean, right?
Yeah, that's Kid Cudi.
And so, but that demeanor probably warranted more interest than what he actually said, because we're gonna talk about it. He said he had discussions with Diddy. He saw allegedly Diddy grab guns, or someone said they grabbed guns. No, I think that was the actual assistant who said that. But he talked about he made the statement that he knew Puffy was dangerous. But there was nothing that really substantiated.
He called him a Marvel supervillain.
Right.
Like, damn it, come on, Cudi.
I feel like, and I don't know how much of this goes into like how, as a witness being taken serious, like his outside life doesn't really speak to a character that you would say, okay, we believe what you're talking about.
But it's something about a person's bravado that makes you take note, right? It's the woman who walks in, who hair might be flawless, but she has on a jogging suit. But she moves as if you say to yourself, that's a boss.
Right.
It's the guy who comes in who has on jeans and a sport coat and everyone has on a suit, and you watch how others react to him, that makes you say, who is that guy? And you got to remember, the courtroom was full of people who wanted to see him. And so even if the jurors didn't know who he was, when he walked in, like I said before, in that James Dean type bravado, and for the Gen Xers and those who don't know who James Dean is, look him up, Google him. But he walks in and sits down and confidently speaks and has this bravado and sense of surety about himself. That makes you take notice more than if he came in and had a suit on.
Now, seeing as though he had an actual relationship or dealings with Cassie, does that come into play when you're thinking about what he would say against a dude who also had the same dealings? Like, is that taken into account? Like, because if I was dealing with a woman I liked and you had the ups on me with that woman, yeah, you blew up my car. Yeah, you did all that because you had the woman that I wanted.
Man, if we take ourselves out of it, right? We take ourselves out of it. This actually sounds like 10 or 20 situations we all seen in high school.
For sure. Absolutely.
Some guy dated a girl, they broke up. Another guy started dating her. The first guy gets upset. They talk or they fight or they do whatever they do. And the first guy makes the situation so uncomfortable that the girl and the second guy break up, and then she ends up back with the first guy. We've seen that. That's a story as old as time.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that he really talked about that should have drawn interest, and I think everyone was looking at, was the fact that allegedly he broke into his house, Cudi's house. He went through Christmas presents. He put his dog into the bathroom.
That's wild.
The dog is now traumatized, which I object to, and I think that's going to come up on appeal.
Wait. What's your objection? Like, object. What are you objecting? The dog is traumatized. What we objecting?
We're not here for animal cruelty. We're not here for animal cruelty. And it's several, if you think about it, looking for a reason, you bring in this woman who's pregnant and you show this video of me beating her in a hallway. You let people come up and basically say that I'm the mob, and none of them have ever seen me do it. They've never seen me shoot a gun. They've never seen me, other than one or two people who may have physically or actually saw him hit her or claimed that Diddy hit them. But everybody else just saw bruises and marks. No one really saw him do anything. And then there was actually testimony that came in that said that the fingerprints during the car incident were female. Mm. And so there's no video, there's nothing. And it's just real curious.
So when Cudi says, yeah, he took the Chanel presents and gifts and my dog was in the bathroom, it's Cudi's saying something to pay him as like a dog abuser. As a defense, you're object like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. Like, stop. Like, what are we doing?
Hold on. Do we even really believe Puff Daddy broke into Kid Cudi's house?
I believe that shit.
You believe a millionaire nigga broke into?
I believe he masked up.
Was it Puff Daddy or Puffy or Sean?
Right. It was before Love. This is before Love.
Was this him with the mohawk?
Yeah, this is definitely Puffy.
So
he likes to get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
So this is a large part of the issue with all of that. As far as the prosecution is what they're doing, like I said before, is painting him as this villain, mm-hmm. showing how controlling he is. And so that goes to that point. As a defense attorney, how do you bring in, this is a criminal trial. How do you bring in this evidence to try to get beyond a reasonable doubt when there is just like this mysterious ghost figure that he's supposed to be, this mysterious mastermind that he's supposed to be? Now, the things that they actually have him on, I think they got him on the drugs. I think they got him on the money and the transactions dealing with the drugs and the transactions dealing with the prostitutes. Mm-hmm. I think they have him on that. But this whole situation with him being this Marvel supervillain, right? This black Lex Luthor, in a sense, to a jury, as we go along, at some point you say, man, hold up. Y'all said a whole lot about this man being a villain, but you haven't shown one video, one photograph, or anyone who ever saw him commit these crimes.
Yeah.
And that's another, it's like, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but it just seems like he's being berated and judged upon just how freaky he is and his sexual exploits, which he ain't blow out that man's car. Bro, I just feel like that's what he's on trial for. And I feel like it opens up a very serious door about what we're going to start seeing as far as black men dealing with women.
Look, I talked about sexual assault
mm-hmm.
and rape and all of that before on a previous show.
For sure.
And so those are very serious accusations, and they should not be just overlooked. But at the same time, you're correct. They are being weaponized. I think it was the Kansas City chief wide receiver whose wife alleged that he had sexually assaulted her or raped her after she got caught cheating. And that case was dismissed based on the fact that they found, or there was enough evidence to show that it didn't happen. And so you have it on both sides. You have it being, a horrific crime and something that should never be done to anyone. And then you have it also being weaponized and, falsified against individuals. And you're right. I've talked about it before in the sense that this case has become more about what people do behind closed doors in their sex life than anything else. Now, I want to throw this out real quick. I'm expecting the defense to bring in witnesses to testify that they literally saw Ms. Ventura beat up on Diddy.
Yes, that's gonna happen.
Right.
I think that's going to happen. And when that happens to a jury, does that neutralize? Is it because you have some relationships that are just violent?
Right.
Right? None of us have been in one, but we've seen those type of relationships.
We've had guests come on here and speak to the relationship of Diddy and Cassie and said, yeah, that was a thing. Like they beat up on each other. Like it was not just one-sided. Now the visual that we seen in the hotel, that was what they did.
Now
allegedly.
Now what?
No, it's not allegedly.
No, I'm talking about what they did.
They fought.
Yeah, they fought.
It was a fight in the hotel.
I know. I'm not saying that. Raw, like they
Cassie,
get into it.
Cassie fought, man.
Now, what I'm curious to see if he did record everything like they said he did. Is there video in his home of her hitting him?
Right.
Yeah, and I hate to. I don't want to go X-rated with you, Mr. Larry Taylor, but I have to say it. I mean, anybody who's looking for BBC, like punishment of vaginal orifices, if that's a word. I can see them being a pain freak, which means when it comes to dishing out and giving pain, it could definitely have one both ways. Now, you don't have to comment on that. I'm just giving you my observation. I'm giving you my observation.
Next question. Next question. Next question.
All right, Joker. All right. I was like, where's he going with this?
The largest.
So, has Diddy done anything to get life yet? Basically, like
I said before, it's up to a jury to convict him, and it's up to a judge to punish him.
Right.
And so, if he is convicted of these crimes, and the code basically allows for a life sentence, then he is subject and possibly to be sentenced to life.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So,
Hold on, wait.
Hold on 1 second.
So Cudi,
Right.
He does say that Diddy did call him, or he was ready to meet up with him to handle like men.
Right.
Diddy said, "I'm at your house. I'm already here." And he said, and this was one instance. Another instance was Diddy was on his way back to his house to look for him, and Cudi said, in order to protect himself, he called the police that day, just in case, because he didn't know what Diddy was on. He said Diddy sounded like he was going to come with some other people. He didn't know what he was on. And of course, there's been other testimony where Diddy has grabbed guns to kind of go handle things. To show that Diddy is a violent man, as far as Cudi's testimony, like he's a violent man. He found a Molotov cocktail in his Porsche after he picked up Cassie and the whole thing. Again, there's no evidence that even Diddy did. That's a whole different trial maybe, but there's no evidence there. But to kind of paint the picture that Diddy is violent, is for the charges that they're charging him for, being a violent man, does it even matter if he roughed up a bouncer at a club because he didn't get a section or whatever? Like, just show he's a violent man. How does that work in the prosecution's area as far as, let's just show he's violent?
I think his defense has already laid the groundwork to that, and saying that he was part of a domestic violence relationship. And these other acts are all really alleged because, once again, no one has ever really said that they saw him do any of these things. And there's no video evidence at this time that he actually did these things. I know that, if I'm not mistaken, his assistant received immunity, and another witness had a proffer agreement. Now, a proffer agreement is when you go before the feds and you tell them exactly what you know. And as long as what you're saying is the absolute truth, what you're saying will not come back and be used against you, in a sense. And so those two witnesses, because that information is out there, is pretty much, it could hurt their credibility toward the jury. Most of the time, it really doesn't, but it could. And so, going back to your question, as far as showing that he's violent, they want to show that he was kind of mafia violent, the same as John Gotti or some of the other alleged mafia bosses that people know about, and using this racketeering. But I think they're still falling way short of having any actual evidence, because to charge him and say that he actually threw and set Kid Cudi's car on fire is basically saying that he's guilty of a crime, an arson. And how do you do that and say that when you have no evidence other than circumstantial that we were beefing, and use that to convict someone beyond a reasonable doubt? That's a very slippery slope.
Right.
But that's a very slippery slope.
As of right now, who's winning?
I think it's no one winning right now. I think that
Still win? There are no winners.
I think right now, the defense, and I shout out to, and I forgot his name just that quick. Shout out to Young Thug's attorney who's involved in this case.
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian Steele?
And I said, when I saw the trial, the YSL trial, I said, this dude is good because he's not emotional. He doesn't do the shock, right? He's not really doing anything to sensationalize the internet, to get viewers or get clicks or anything of that nature. He is very methodical about his questioning. He's very careful. And so he'll let you slip and fall into that crack on your own, and he'll lead you to where you need to go. And that's what you really need from a good defense attorney. Someone who can take the jury step by step. And so when he comes back and he questions individuals about, okay, is it really what you say it is, or is it something else? And he gets them to fall into that, it undermines what the prosecution has done. And so because he's done such a great job at that, but yet and still, you had both Ms. Ventura and her mom testify. That's a mark for the prosecution. And the testimony about the sex, a mark for the prosecution. But at the same time, the crossing of Ms. Ventura, right?
Right.
Like, didn't you text him and say, hey, when are we doing?
Yeah, those texts are wild.
When are we doing a freak off? When are we?
I can't wait.
Right.
For the next one. Like,
and so that type of thing, the prosecution's going to should have their own expert come in and say that, hey, look, there are people out there women out there who enjoy this type of relationship, enjoy these type of sexual behaviors. And so it's a reason why, 2 years ago, everything on social media was about, I love my toxic relationship.
Oh yeah, toxicity. Yeah, that was
right. You know, it was men posting about their wives or girlfriends hitting them in the head and going off on them. You know, here's a present. You know, why isn't my diamond hot? You didn't cook it. It's a diamond, baby. You don't cook it. And getting chewed out and vice versa. And I don't love a man unless, you know, he's about to beat up the waiter.
Yeah.
Because the waiter's male and he gave me my water first.
Come on.
Right? And so there are people who like toxic relationships. And so that's something that I think the prosecution is going to bring up as well.
So for the prosecution to bring up,
I'm sorry, the defense. The defense.
Yeah, the defense. Yeah, when they have their turn, for the prosecution to bring up, you know, the male sex workers, you know, the Punisher, who wrote a book called Freezer Meat, and talks about having, you know, erectile dysfunction.
I don't even know how you said that with a straight face.
Yeah. I'm blinking a few. You know, goddamn, yeah, nigga coughing. Shit. He wrote a book, of course, The Lack of Freezer Meat or something, where he's speaking on erectile dysfunction while allegedly being with Cassie and Diddy, and saying why, you know, they're basically going through his book of why you were, you know, what was going on during your visitation with Cassie and Diddy, of why you couldn't perform. And again, it makes Diddy look like, I don't know, yeah, just very freaky. It's very freaky. What are your thoughts when they pull up the pictures of all 6, I think, or maybe 6 or 8 male sex workers? They're not going to present them all, but they're showing these are the guys, or these are the type of men, including Jonathan Oddie, that they wanted to, you know, of course, be with. To me, it doesn't matter to have the male sex workers there in their story.
And side note, why are they not being prosecuted?
Yeah, like sex workers.
You know, look, they probably have some kind of immunity or deal, but if they did, it would have to be made known. So I can't really explain that.
Right, because it seemed like Diddy's getting all the flack. It's like everybody was involved in this.
Or watch this. Or at the time that it happened, what they could charge them with, the statute of limitations has passed.
Right.
And so there are a couple of different reasons. But, you know, once again, the prosecution is doing their job by having us talk about sex. We can't talk about the actual being coerced or the fraud, or we're not talking really about the money. We're not really talking about the transactions with the drugs. Where'd they get the drugs for?
It's coming.
But it could be coming. But if we're so caught up with sex, and this is where it gets dangerous. If I'm so caught up with sex, then the next witness, and he's talking about, Diddy had me go purchase drugs from this guy off of 5th Street on this date for the freak off. People are like, okay, what happened at the freak off? They're not even focused in on the fact that just recently, the cash was used to go purchase things outside of food and drinks. They said that the food and drinks were purchased up under the corporation. All of the sex oils and toys and everything else was paid for with cash from Puffy. Puffy told his assistant that, hey, look, that's personal stuff. I'll pay for that from my own pocket. They tried to make that a thing, but to be honest with you, and this is the thing that bothered me. They said this deals with his criminal mindset. No. As a corporation, and this is how people get caught up. If I run a corporation, you guys run a corporation, right? And if you purchase cameras, if you purchase drinks and food for your guests, that's one thing. But if you go and you can't use the corporation money to go buy your son a PlayStation. That's not part of, that doesn't benefit the corporation.
We bought baby oil, only for entertainment purposes.
You bought baby oil.
Don't listen to him, please. We have bought baby oil, but it wasn't.
It was only for entertainment.
I have a PSA. I have a PSA. If the feds come investigate,
they only come to investigate Joker. They only come to talk to Joker.
If they come investigate Joker for baby oil, understand that our relationship is just in front of the camera and behind the camera. We have never hung out outside of this.
You will not see it.
Like, no, you can check my GPS on my phone, my car. I've not been anywhere near his freak shop or anything else?
No.
He has a free mobility.
So now, like you were saying, I feel like when it comes to like extreme sexual things, right? That people just they're darker thoughts, right? They're intrusive thoughts. They're things that like you want to pretend you don't like, and so when people are caught in those acts, you want to demonize that. Like everybody do some drugs sometimes. Like, oh, okay.
Right.
Now, I mean, like I'm sure there's people. No, but so
No.
but no. What I'm saying is,
I know what
there
you're
are.
saying.
I guarantee you, there are people on that jury that have done drugs but not been peed on. So,
Where's the trial being held at?
where is the trial? New York. New York. Is it New
Is
York?
weed legal there?
Is it?
Yeah.
No, is it New York?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, shit.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
So chances are there's somebody who puffs and eats there on the jury because as I travel the country and I watch people line up to go into these shops, it's everyone from
The rooter to the
a
tutor?
Brooks Brothers suit that costs $1,500 to somebody in some slides and some socks. But to your point about the sex, and so I had a case that involved a young woman. She was sexually assaulted, but she was also a swinger. The assault had nothing to do with her relationship. It was an employment situation. But the information came out that she was in and this is where I learned the term, a throuple. And so the defense tried to really make
What's the thruples?
3 people.
Oh, 3.
3 people in a relationship. I was gonna set you up, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it. I want you to keep a happy home. But the thing is, they tried to villainize her early on before the trial of being in those relationships and saying that she was open to any and everything. And the thing was, we had to let them know, no, it was controlled. It was, she enjoyed being in this relationship that was in a controlled environment between 3 consenting individuals. And so that was very different than what took place outside of that.
Can I ask you your thoughts on the media take on all this? It was brought up that when they raided Diddy's house, they only found 25 bottles of baby oil. But somehow the media ran with 1,000, which was crazy. That was never a thing. And they'd be like, we don't know how that even got to become a thing where 1,000 bottles of baby oil it's 25 is still a lot, but manageable.
Maybe he's ashy.
Maybe he's ashy. Well, well, testimony says he like him greasy. But give me your thoughts as far as the media's outtake on this. I know, right? Because the media is running with such a narrative. I think it was Dawn Richards from Danny Kane who was leaving her testimony on Monday, and they were. I can't even repeat it. But they yelled out some really rude things about Diddy's manhood. That I'm like, the media is really becoming the show of all this. What are your thoughts on the media aspect of it? Because even Kid Cudi, as he was leaving, some things were said to him that was like talking about Kanye and Diddy. I can't even say it. But they're saying such crazy things.
So when you comment on this portion of the show and you don't know what he was talking about, please don't direct that toward me.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I get
Do your own research.
I get enough already. And so, but going back to, the media.
Yes.
One of the things that I find to be dangerous, and I know I've upset some people on here by giving plausible reasons why Diddy's defense did a good job, or why the prosecution wasn't strong enough on this, or what they did wasn't necessary. It's not that I choose a side, but I am just talking about the facts or the testimony that has been laid out and how I'm analyzing it as a trial attorney. Mm-hmm. I've been in and I go to trial. I've been in and I go to trial. And so I'm analyzing from that standpoint. When I see lawyers or the media who are jumping on the bandwagon of grabbing torches and saying that he's a monster, I find that to be very dangerous. And I find it to be very, how should I say it, disingenuous to the craft. Because if you truly are a good litigator and a good lawyer, you're going to always look at the evidence and call it out as you see it, good, bad, or indifferent. Now, if we're on a program and one person is supposed to take the pro and someone's supposed to take the con, I get that. You argue your point of view. But if you are up there just to talk about the program, for example, when I was on one of the national televised programs talking about the Cosby. I said Cosby was getting out years before he was getting out. Because the testimony and the evidence that was used in that trial had previously been agreed to that it would never see the light of day. This judge basically undid another judge's decision and circumvented that man's Fifth Amendment right. Yes. And so when I look at a case, I look at it as the law intended, to be neutral, to look at it at the evidence. And the media, their job is to sell ads and to get views and to get clicks. And so I hope that the commentary that I have on here, people take it and use it to either better themselves in understanding how the trial is going along, even if you don't like the situation and you really want to see Diddy or Puffy go to jail for life, and you want someone to just feed into what you want. That's not what I'm going to do. Right. It's not, even though I might want the same thing. You didn't have me on here to talk about what I want. You had me to come talk about the case from a legal stance, because you yourself can get up here without any law degree and talk about how bad and how he should go to jail.
Exactly. I'm your typical juror. Maybe not. But
you would make it.
Yeah, right. When it comes to when you speak on evidence, and when they arrested Diddy, as far as he came back to New York, he said allegedly to turn himself in at the time. Of course, he went walking, and they caught him coming back to his hotel, but they ended up raiding his hotel room that he was coming in. They showed what they confiscated. You saw a few, travel size bottles of baby oil. You saw the pink cocaine, 2C, whatever the pink
MDA,
the pinkish powder. So to see that, and then of course they showed the clothes he had, and just basically traveling. And again, this is outside of maybe attorney Larry Taylor, but just Larry Taylor the man. The fact that he came to, let's say, turn himself in, and he had the freak off party favors with him. What are your thoughts to that? That he travels with that?
Man, let me tell you something. It's more on the government than anything else.
Wow.
Because when you set up a time and a place to turn yourself in, you meet at that time and place. You don't arrest that person outside of that and then raid their room.
Yeah.
You think about it. The young man just recently in Dallas, Texas, at the high school had the shooting. He said, I was going to turn myself in. They didn't catch him off a riverfront, 2 lights down, and stop him and jump in the car and raid the car. They let him get out the car with his lawyer, with his parents, and walk himself in and put handcuffs on him. And so that has more to do with the government than anything else. Now, given the fact that the government did what they did and we saw what we saw, that's problematic, right? Or is it? Does it go to say that this man has an addiction?
Yeah, right.
And is his addiction against the law?
There you go.
Let's just say, and don't kill me, professional athletes, but if a professional athlete who is married, every time they travel, they got a box of condoms in their suitcase.
They're addicted to protected sex.
Right? Does that necessarily make them, a freak off candidate. And if they are, is that against the law?
Come on.
I mean, every teenage boy who was sexually active when they're 16 to however old until they get married, every time they go out, they got a condom on them, just in case.
Baby was.
Yeah, baby was wild.
Just.
But I mean, it's like a young boy who travels with lotion all the time. You're like, man, I gotta keep my lotion on me. I mean, but let's just skip that. So, so as we finalize week 2 again, they circumvented as far as having trial on Thursday. We're going into Memorial Day weekend, where I'm sure the courses, they're off on Monday. It's going to be a short week. We're halfway through the prosecution's what they're lying in front of. If you were to guess what is to come next in week 3, what do you feel based on what you've seen come in week 1 and 2, where they may go next? If you were to just guess,
they're probably going to have to come up with another victim, because I think it's 2 counts.
Yeah, we're waiting for another victim. Like, I thought there was another victim. Cassie was just to set up a behavior. I thought there's like a physical victim that is like, I'm here. Like, this is what happened to me.
And that is what is kind of, I think, mysterious or confusing about the prosecution's case, in the sense that, okay, I said last show, I think Miss Ventura is being used as the what did I say? Conspiracy, co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator. She's
co-conspirator. But the way that they keep layering how he beat her and how he forced her to stay with him, now it seems like they're using her as the victim and her travel. But the problem that they have is her travel to New York was something that Puffy didn't know about when they had the freak off in New York. She was like, hey, I'm going to be in New York. You want to meet up and you want to do these things. And so it really gets to be more great. Like, I was perfectly fine with her being the person who had inside track, because she knew, because she was taking money. She was calling over the prostitutes. or the dancers, or the exotic dancers, or whatever you want to call them. And so she was actively involved. But at the same time, and it still could be that way, because the assistant, he did things and showed that he also was involved in the engaged illegal activity and the ongoing activity, because it has to be ongoing. And so he was involved in it. And so he could be, quote unquote, considered a co-conspirator. And that's why he ended up getting the immunity. And so the next 2 weeks, if they are using Ms. Ventura as the first alleged victim, then, and they're spending 2 weeks per victim, they got to put another victim on at the beginning of the next week to really ride out and show how that person was done similar to Ms. Ventura, and to prove those 2 crimes, to prove the elements and prove those 2 crimes.
Oh yeah, no, I want to say they do have a hill to climb. I am curious to see where it goes on a short week. And of course, I know you spoke on it last time, but finally I got to get your take as far as where this may go regarding Tory Lanez getting transferred to another penitentiary now. And I forget the reporter who is now vying for his freedom based on the congresswoman who is fighting for his freedom now based on circumstantial evidence that was secluded. Things of that nature. And Megan's lawyers have put out additional, like, hey, let me remind y'all, like, Tory technically, not saying he confessed, but his conversation was more so that he was heavily involved. Do you see the Tory Lanez case going anywhere based on now that we have him being moved? We have this congresswoman fighting for him. Do you see anything changing with this thing over here?
So moving was probably more based on his safety.
Yes.
More than anything else. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the actual trial. The congressional person or individual who is vying for potentially a new trial, that could move the needle. But they're going to need the evidence and solid evidence to present to a judge to say that they need a new trial. And that's going to, in that the prosecution withheld evidence or his attorney failed to present that evidence that should have been presented. And so those things are going to need to be shown in order to really get him a shot at having a new trial.
So it'll be a new trial versus like dismissal of charges?
Potentially, yes.
Okay. With that being said, Larry, thank you so much again.
One more, Larry.
Oh yeah, we got
one more. The inmates that escaped Louisiana. We got 5 left.
Louisiana 10.
Right.
That's not really big.
I know.
So when they get caught, what happens to them? Where you get that from? Nah, that's
so is that
not real news.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to face new charges.
Yeah. So what charge does that carry when I escape from prison?
That's a good. That's.
I can answer that. I spoke to a prisoner about this, and they said normally they'll throw you automatically 15 additional years or whatever charge you have. So to attempt to escape, no matter if you had 3 to 10, 5 to 10, life, they'll just throw 15 more on top of that because that deters anyone trying to escape. So mandatory, and again, this is Louisiana, they're supposed to throw you 15 additional years for the attempt.
Louisiana is very different.
Right.
I think they are one of the only states that still goes by the original penal code. And so
original penal code is wild.
Yeah, that like they if I'm not mistaken, they're one of the states that really use some older, more archaic penal code. And so, and don't quote me on that. I'll take a look at it next time I'm on here. I'll look, but if I'm not mistaken, that is so. And so I can't really say as to what they may be looking at, but Joker is correct. Generally, that length of time sounds correct, but also it's almost impossible to throw on that much time without having another trial, because you got to remember, and what they need to remember is probably when all you guys were extremely young. Remember the Texas 8? I think it was 8.
Texas 7.
Texas 7. And they ended up killing that security guard.
Right. Yep.
That case was retried. Right. I mean, not retried, but it had to be tried. Right? All the elements of that had to be tried.
Some of them got put to death because of that.
And so, if I'm not mistaken, Joker, I don't see them, even in Louisiana, just able to just throw a couple of years on there like that without first going to a jury of their peers and convicting them of that new crime, because it's a new crime. And so, back to the Texas 7. Those individuals who are harboring and assisting in this have to be very concerned that if any of these individuals do commit murder while you are assisting them, you could also be complicit in charge also. So you have to, that's one of the dangers. But I think that whole situation is extremely interesting, from cutting off the water to breaking through the wall and having so many people involved, right? Like, how do you have 10 people involved in something like this and no one said anything that leaked out to the guards?
The guards are involved.
It says a lot about your prison.
Well, it's a county jail. So it's not really prison. It's a jail.
Bro, how's 5 murderers there if it's county jail?
Yeah, they're facing murder. They're facing murder.
You don't think that? But anyway, you've dealt with a lot of criminals in your time. What kind of person, besides a lifer, because there was more than just lifers among them, what kind of person would try to escape jail? Like, what does what in your honest opinion, like what kind of psyche does that take to be like when you deal with somebody and they're like, oh, they broke out of jail?
It's funny you should say that. So my minor in college, I was a psych pre-med major.
Right.
And so I actually did a paper on the mental state of those who are more susceptible to commit crimes. And part of that is that thrill seeking. And so a lot of times people are adrenaline junkies, right, in a sense, and they like that excitement. Because when you commit a crime, it doesn't stop when you commit it. Right. It's ongoing. You know why? Because it's always the fear of getting caught.
Right. And that does something to your psyche. Yeah. I like it. I like being on the run. Let's do this.
I like walking out the house and looking behind the bushes and looking and watching the cars to see if it's an unmarked police car, or, do I live in a black neighborhood and all of a sudden it's 5 white guys just walking the street? Like, that ain't right.
Right. Because there's people taking bets on who's going to get caught next and everything. I'm sure the prisoners in there rooting, let's go, don't come here.
I want root to the bed.
I didn't take a bear. But if I was going to bet, it would be the Derek guy. He will be the last to get caught. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, he's definitely going to be the last guy because it was so hard for them to catch him. Go watch the documentary. It's really good.
It's one of the smartest ones. They got 5 left. There's a $20,000 reward.
Do you really get that money? Is that a real thing? Because I've heard people say they're not going to really give you that money.
I think they have a hard time not giving you that money. I've never told on anyone to receive dollars, so I don't know firsthand.
They said they might give you like $3,000.
No, I mean they might take out taxes. I don't know. They might treat it like a bingo hall, right? When you win $1,000 at a bingo hall, you never walk out with that 1,000. They take out the taxes right off the bat, and so shout out to the ex and her mom who used to take me to the bingo halls in Dallas. But there's no reason for them not to pay you that money. Especially, the problem is, I'm not going to say any names, but sometimes when you have haters and detractors who are always trying to snitch on you and get you in trouble, right, and looking for money, yeah, you might have told someone, but you might have been the 30th person that told it. Right. And so just because they ended up getting caught and you told it doesn't mean that it was your evidence or your tip that actually got them arrested.
You can just say that though. Like, police could just be like, yeah, we got that from someone else. You just kind of double down.
No, I really doubt that they do that, because the problem that you have is people like me. So if you have told and have not gotten your money and it was a substantial amount, give me a call, because I would love, I just love questioning law enforcement. And so I just love digging into what they did, how the process works, right, and going through that process. I can't do it in Dallas County. I'm prohibited right now from doing anything in that nature in Dallas.
Next time I get pulled over, I'm going to put Larry on FaceTime. This guy?
Dude, you will be surprised how last year I probably received 7 calls from former clients who got pulled over by the police and put me on FaceTime.
And what happens when they put you on FaceTime?
I usually end up talking to the officer, and it's like, hey, officer, I do represent them. I give them my bar number. You can look me up. Are you taking them down? If you are, we just go through the process. And a lot of times, once we go through that process, they let my people go.
Isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Except for the one time, officer said, shit, you again? Nah.
What about the bounty hunters?
What about them?
Like, should the prisoners be worried about bounty hunters?
Dog.
The hell yes.
So they're out there and
they get paid to find you.
So watch this. What a lot of people don't realize is if any of those guys had not been convicted and were out on bond, if they're bounty hunters and they were on substantial bonds, if that person brings them in, that could very well benefit the bonding company. The bonding company can say, hey, look, we were responsible. He did this, but we went and we got him back. We retrieved him. And so you don't penalize us. That's why that 10% rule comes in, right? Anybody who's ever been arrested, you always hear about the 10%. Well, the bond is you pay 10%, but the bonding company's still on the hook for the actual amount.
Exactly.
And so they got to come off that money.
They got to collect.
Or the insurance has to pay that money. If you are not detained, if you're not in jail, and it's because of your client's own doing, then they're on the hook for that. And so if they bring you back, that could save the bonding company having to pay that fee to the courts.
Correct. Yeah, bond is just an insurance in general. If you were representing one of the escapees and they called you and said, Larry, I ain't going back, but I'm at my mama's house. Are you the attorney?
The number you've dialed.
The attorney-client privilege. Do you have to by law tell hey, he just called me saying he's here. I gotta let y'all know, or is it the attorney-client privilege still is in place if he calls you and say,
Joking.
I'm just curious.
Joking, you can finish it, but I'm not answering.
Damn. Okay, all right, there you go. That should let you know.
You can finish that question, but I'm not answering.
That should let you know. Before we get out of here.
You know what? Let me do this for you.
Oh, please.
Let me do this for you. The law is basically that as a professional, if you know about the whereabouts or an act of someone who has caused or could cause harm to someone else, you have an obligation to provide that information to prevent such harm from happening. I will say that because, every lawyer, there's that whole thing with psychiatrists and doctors. If you know of someone who is suicidal or who is depressed and they've said that they're going to cause harm to someone, you have that doctor-client privilege. However, there is that gray area in which to prevent harm, you're able to say something.
But it's that gray area.
But asking me that question and what I'm going to do,
okay, yeah,
I'm just going to tell you what the law says. I'm not saying what I'm doing.
Yeah, because a person who commits a mass murder and then confesses to their lawyer saying, I did that.
Man, look.
But I need to get off.
I
don't see the lawyer saying, okay, let me go turn you in. He said he did it. It's your job to basically still fight that case.
Man, the problem with confessions to lawyers is a professional question. So this is now becoming a CLE for lawyers. As a lawyer, you can't present evidence that you know is false.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. I didn't know that. I thought some lawyers just, even though they know they'll.
No, man, you can't do that.
I see.
You can't do that. And one of the things I always tell people is, and I tell young lawyers, always wear the white hat. And it's never failed me. Because number one, if I'm representing you and I walk into a courtroom, the judge either knows firsthand or knows from asking about me that I am always on above board. I'm not doing any shenanigans. I'm not doing anything. I'm litigating the case. And I'm going to litigate it right, and I'm going to litigate it to the max.
Correct.
Right? Like
moral code out of it, or
the what?
Your morals out of it, strictly by the law.
I mean, what does my morals have to do with me representing you?
Sometimes you might feel he's guilty.
I might not like your fade.
Damn.
Right?
That's south side to do it. That's south side to do it.
Right? I might not like anything. I might not like your cologne, and I said it before on your show, to me, it's always about the Constitution. Because the moment that we start treading on the First, the Second, the Fourth, the Fifth, the Sixth Amendment, then the hell with the 13th. And if the 13th is gone, everybody in this room is subject to have shackles and end up on a boat somewhere. And so I protect every part of the Constitution as a lawyer because I took a sworn oath to do so. I'm not doing it because I'm a sellout. I'm not doing it because I'm just, I'm doing it because I understand that if I litigate and I act upon this document and I use it correctly, then I can do things to help my people. I mean, when George Floyd happened, it was me and 5 other lawyers across this country who were advising your representatives, your senators, on how to negotiate to try to get this bill passed throughout the country, right? And so how do you do that when you will overlook other parts of the Constitution that you feel might not fit you well? Like I heard a lawyer said that Puffy shouldn't have an AR. Well, hell, we live in Texas and we hog hunt, we hunt, right? And so to sit up there and say and tell national television that no one should have an AR, I get the political stance on that with school shootings and other things. I get that. But at the same time, the Second Amendment and the laws of the states allow us to purchase those weapons, those type of weapons. And so to sit up there and tread on that for a personal belief, right? Because if you're going to talk about people shouldn't have AR-15s, then I need that same energy for police shootings. I need that same energy for underrepresented, underfunded schools in poor urban communities. I need that same energy for everything that is quote unquote morally wrong. So let's stick to the Constitution, let's stick to the argument, and let's stick to the issue at hand, and let's go at it.
Does the Constitution need any updates? And if there is, can you give us one?
Man, that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
Let's and look, watch this. Those of you who are watching this, you heard the question. If you want to hear about, some things that could be tweaked in the Constitution, some things that could be tweaked within this country as far as dealing with the laws, like Puerto Rico. Should Puerto Rico have voting rights? Should Washington, D.C. have voting rights?
Right.
Is it fair that it's more people in Washington, D.C. who have no voting rights as to the president when places, then they have more people there than they have in South Dakota? And so there are lots of things that we could talk about, man, but that's all. Y'all always do this toward the end. We
open up Pandora's box.
Yeah, you open up, and so we'll talk about that because I think that even though it's not as sexy as baby oil, 2 dudes, and a woman on stilts, right, hanging from a rafter. I know it's not as sexy as that. It's not as sexy as baby oil gunfights.
Man,
I know it's not as sexy as that. But those are things that I think that you as the viewers, you should arm yourself about because they affect you on a daily basis. And we'll talk about the bills that just recently passed.
Yeah, no food stamps, SNAP, Trump. Yeah, we're gonna bring you back for that one because that's the whole conversation.
It's lots of things that involve the law, the Constitution, and this country that isn't sexy. But
Canada becoming a 51st state. I'm excited.
But watch this. Are you more excited about hearing about Miss Ventura and Puff Daddy's sexual interaction when in a couple of months or next year, in 2026, you might not have food for your kids?
Come on, yeah, no, that's not sexy enough. But that's reality.
Or you might have to work 80 hours a month.
That's a reality.
When you've been watching Murray and talk shows from 10 to 5 for the last 10 years.
That's a reality.
So, I like talking about those hard-hitting things.
As we let you out, my last I want to get your take on it just because it happened was people choosing to be executed by death by gunfire, firing squad.
We talked about that on my podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just real quick. Just what is I guess it's a moral question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that? You know, it's a choice of the inmate, but what are your thoughts on more inmates taking that choice to go out and the way of that?
Go to Taylor Made Conversations on YouTube, the sister channel to the Real Life Street Stars. Where we have a different type of talk show, but I think you will enjoy it. But at the same time, man, we are crazy.
I like it.
We are.
Throw your hands up.
Look, man, you are going back to hangings and firing squad. You know, I talked about it. I think it was in South Carolina is where they're doing the firing squad.
Yeah.
And the first one they did okay. And basically it's set up where it's 3 individuals who have rifles and they're about 10 to 15 feet away.
Aiming at the heart.
And they're supposed to be aiming at the heart, and they have targets around the heart where they need to be shooting. And the idea is that you shoot, and as the bullets cut through the body, they cut off the circulation throughout the body, so you instantly die, right? Because there's no more blood flow, there's no more anything that is providing those sensories to the brain, and so you don't feel pain. Well, this last one,
he's on the ground.
One out of 3 hit the mark. And so this person was alleged to have laid on the ground a little more than a minute suffering from these gunshot wounds. And I think a large part of it is someone potentially saying, if I gotta die, you see it all the time. If I gotta die, I'm going out.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
I'm going out like a blade, you know, I'm going out with a blaze of glory. You know, you gonna have to,
you gonna live.
Shoot me.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ain't gonna give me no drugs and put me out like no junkie. You're gonna have to, you know, I'm going out like a soldier. Okay, like a soldier. Man. There's a lot of soldiers who went out who wish they didn't go out like that, wish they stayed at home. Yeah. And so I think I can't really explain to the mindset, but I think that as a country, we should never have allowed something like that.
Yeah, the conversation of death penalty is, again, that's a whole nother conversation. And that goes into people's religious standpoints, people's morals, the code, and things of that nature as far as the giver and the person receiving the death. So thank you for at least just directing them to the conversation at Taylor Made Conversations to kind of go more in depth on your thoughts on that. With that being said, for those that do want to follow you, do want to kind of catch up with your take on this trial, your take on other conversations that you've been having, some of the guests that you've been having on your show, again, pretty profound. Can you tell them how to get at everything that you're doing on your end?
You can find me at the Real Life Lawyer on everything. And then Taylor Made Conversations is the YouTube channel. And then you can find me at tailormadelaw.com if you are looking for potential legal services or you need a referral and you want to find a good lawyer, right? If you want to find a good lawyer and you live in Chicago, you want to find a good lawyer and you live in Ohio, one of the things that I've had the privilege to do is travel this country and work with some of the best lawyers in the country. And so one of the things that if I ever suggest a lawyer for you, is not going to be someone who's going to take your money, who's not going to return your call. It's not someone who is not going to actually give you an understanding of your legal situation. And it's not anyone who is not afraid to go to trial. And so I always tell clients, trial is totally up to you. Even though it's sometimes I feel like we should go to trial. And I had, when I did criminal, and there's some people who didn't want to go. And even with sometimes with cases dealing with money. Personal injury cases. You know, there's $1 million on the table. The client wants to take the $1 million. I think the case is worth at least 2.5 or 3 million. And they don't want to take the risk of going to trial. That is totally up to the client. I don't decide that for you. And so one of the things that I do is I help people find great lawyers.
With that being said, definitely they got to tap in with you. They haven't tapped in. And again, as we speak on this Diddy trial and we're going forward, we're going to make sure we have you back in to speak on more. If y'all have y'all questions, again, throw them to Real Life. Jump in the comments. Are you responding to the comments?
I am responding to the comments.
I would say, quit all that hating in the comments too. My boy is thorough with it. Come on, man. He ain't taking no sides, man. He just real thorough, man. On, man. It's the law, man. It's the law. Like the real life law.
The real life law. And you know what, man? I take the comments good or bad. Some of them are pretty funny. I've come at and I've told him. I said, man, that's a good one. You got me on that one. I'll make sure I don't wear that again. Or I might not do certain things again. And then the ones who come at me with misstating Miss Ventura's name, perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
Perfectly understandable. But the ones who come at me saying that I take a side or I'm misogynistic, if you watch my earlier interviews here with the Real Life Street Stars, you'll see I am far from that. I am very far from that. But I do call balls and strikes as they are. And so I'm sorry if sometimes I'm not saying what you want me to say. But what's the first word of the show? Real.
Real. Come on. There you go.
And we're just gonna keep it real.
There you go. With that being said, we got to thank you again, Larry Taylor III, from the Johnny Cochran Law Firm, man, the Real Life lawyer.
Hold on, I got to correct you.
Please.
Larry Taylor Jr.
Larry Taylor Jr. Man, you don't put the third on your thing?
My son is the third.
Ah, well, shout out your son.
I know people say I look young enough to be my own daddy.
Come on.
But
well, there you go, man. We got to say it, man. We appreciate you, man. The Real Life lawyer back on the couch, man. We're going to tap back in. But again, thank you for this very educational experience right now, man. We got to say it. Real Life lawyer, Larry Taylor, you are a Real Life street star. There you go. Hey.
Shout out Real Life Street Stars, nigga. Move it. Hey.